Blessed love to everyone. Give thanks for your presence with us. Blessed love, Princess.
Blessed love.
Blessed love, Prince.
Blessed love.
Oh, do give thanks to the life giver. Love off that part there for me a second there. Come again. Yes, we're definitely thankful for your presence with us live and direct. You are here. This is what we call the tiger's nest, and we are tigers here amongst the regular animals in the jungle. Do you know that the tiger is really the king of the jungle? It's not the lion, you know. They say the lion is what?
The king of the beasts.
The king of the beasts. But tigers are the ones that really live in jungles. Yeah, not the lion. In fact, Africa does not have as much jungle as they want us to believe. They want you to feel that Africa is this place that is just jungle and ooga googa googa and all sorts of funny things. And Africa is a lot of prairie land and savanna and these different things and forests as well. And we do have jungles and rainforests too, but not in the way that the world wants you to believe. And this is why we have this curriculum that we put together for all the people that we love. This is our African heritage and history curriculum that we are now presenting to these wonderful people. Because the world that we live in, they want us to forget about our African heritage. The world that we live in, they want us to forget about our African culture and forget that we are Africans. Even if you live in Africa, they want you to forget that you are an African. So this is why, little ones, when you go to school, especially depending on whatever school you may go to, if it's not your mother or your father homeschooling you, or you have a special school that you may go to, because they do exist, more than likely they have nothing in their curriculum, which is the format that they're supposed to use to teach. They have nothing in their whole syllabus, which is basically the same, that has to do with African history. There's nothing that has to do with African heritage. So this is why we are bringing this to you. This now is your, I would say, your first African uh, textbook. And this was produced, of course, by us right here at the Priest Isaac's Institute of Holistic Knowledge. You see the Honorable Princess Acacia Menin, and of course, myself, the Honorable Priest Isaac, and the Honorable Prince Almasi. This is our work here, and we will be using this textbook, this e-textbook, throughout the whole course of our African history and heritage. Okay, now since this is our first class, and it's first class too, but since this is our first class as it relates to our African history and heritage, we're going to begin by speaking primarily of the land itself, Africa. All right. So what we have basically here is, a map of the world highlighting Africa itself. So just in case, this is a map of the world, not the whole world. In fact, a lot of North America is cut out. So North America, and some of Australia is gone, and even some of Europe is gone. But this map has been designed to highlight Africa. Now, this is what you would call a modern day map of Africa. So you have, Algeria, you have Morocco here, but the name is not there. You have Libya, Egypt. This is a modern day map of Africa, Africa as we know it today. And if you are in Africa, blessed love to you. Now, this one is a more ancient map of Africa. And if you notice, it has here as the Ethiopian Sea. Right here, you'll notice it says here, pardon me, the Ethiopian Sea. Now, the reason why it says the Ethiopian Sea is because in the olden days, all of Africa, remember, Africa was once one nation. This is very important, young ones. This is very important. All of Africa was referred to as Ethiopia. Yes, you had the different provinces and the different areas because Africa has many different tribes and different cultures, different ways, different ways of doing things, different dances, songs, languages. There's so many different things about the people of Africa, but yet still they had one unity in spirit. So there was a time when Africa was one in spirit, even though they had differences, because the differences, listen to this, the differences did not make them different. They were one in spirit. You see, like how today religion divide people, and because he's a Muslim and he's a Christian and he's something else, they don't talk to one another. They can't get along. The most they may say is hi when they see each other, but they cannot live in unity. They can't even start a business together just because they have a different religious outlook. Check it out. We never looked at that in Africa. We never thought like that in Africa. In fact, in Africa, we never really dealt with religion. That's why we could be one, because we dealt with the spirit, spirituality. So this is why you see here the Ethiopian Sea, because in reality, modern day Ethiopia is somewhere over here to the northeast. But yet still what we have here is the Ethiopian Sea here in the west, showing you that as the Greeks used to refer to Africa as Ethiopia, this is showing you proof that all of Africa was one. It was once known as Ethiopia. Now, what we have here, this is the northeastern section. You see, you have the, what's this, a compass?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have north and you have east. North, east. So this is the northeastern section of Africa. Here you have modern day Ethiopia. Now, this is the longest river on the planet. Anyone can tell me the name of this river here?
The River Nile.
The River Nile. I'm going to ask a harder question now. Before it was called the River Nile, what was it called?
The Gion.
You're correct. You're correct. I must say that. And that's not the answer I was looking for. And I'm thankful that you brought that in, Honorable Princess. Because now in the Bible, and the answer I was looking for was the river Happy. Happy.
Oh, yeah.
You're right. Happy is the ancient Kemetic name. But she is correct about the Bible. Because now in the book of Genesis chapter 2, if you could just type Genesis chapter 2 there for me. In the book of Genesis chapter 2, it speaks about a river that encompassed the whole land of Ethiopia. Genesis chapter 2, it speaks about the river that encompasses, that means it goes around the whole land of Ethiopia. And if you notice that this is modern day Ethiopia, but as I said before, all of Africa was once Ethiopia. In fact, the whole of this area was once called Ethiopia. So this river here is the biblical Gion, the river in the Bible known as Gion is the modern day river Nile. But hear this, hear this. Genesis chapter 2, that's the beginning of the Bible. That's where the Bible starts. And the first country that's mentioned, the first country that the Bible speaks about, that is a country today in modern time, is Ethiopia. So technically, Ethiopia is the first country mentioned in the Bible. The Bible in the creation story. So what does that show you, young prince and princesses and princess and prince? What does that show us? Ethiopia is very old, extremely old. It is the first country mentioned in the Bible. Okay.
They say that Egypt is the daughter of Ethiopia.
Egypt, this is Egypt here.
Kemet.
Kemet is the daughter of Ethiopia. All right, very good. So the River Nile now is the longest river. Keep this in mind. The River Nile is the longest river on the planet. Can anyone tell me how long, the length, I should say, of the River Nile?
4,200.
4,200 miles is the length of the River Nile. The River Nile runs for 4,200 miles. So it comes out of Lake Victoria and it comes out of Lake Tanya, and they meet together. The Blue Nile meets the White Nile and makes what we know today as the River Nile. Again, 4,200 miles long is the River Nile, the same River Gyan that the Honorable Princess just spoke about a moment ago. All right, now, what we have here, we have a shot of the River Nile again. If you look here, you see one of the ancient pyramids of Egypt, again, also known as Tamari or Kemet. And this pyramid is known as the Bent Pyramid. And of course, we will speak about the pyramids more as we go along in our classes, our African heritage classes. So this is just a highlight here of the ancient days when we were sailing up and down the River Nile, because we are from Africa. We are Africans. Now, these are our brothers and sisters from Africa. Well, these are really sisters, just giving you an idea. Because remember now, Africa is the origin of human beings. It's the origin of civilization, but it's also the origin of human beings in general. The first human beings, people on the planet, were Africans. And that is the truth. Now, it's very easy for you to hear that truth and respond by saying that it doesn't matter if you're black or white. Now, to be honest, we were not speaking about if it matters if you're black or white. We're just stating a fact. If you could remember, when we began, we showed you that there is a strong system in place that does not want you to remember your Afrocentricity, meaning that you are an African. They do not want, even if you're not black, even if you're Chinese, even if you're European, they still do not want you to know that the origin of human beings of which you came out of is Africa. So obviously, when someone comes and says, hey, do you know that the first people are Africans? Hey, do you know that the first people are black? They already have a mechanism in place for people to tell you, oh, it doesn't matter anymore. It does matter. It's very important. So this is a picture of some of our sisters in Africa keeping up the tradition and the culture that they are accustomed to. Remember, we have many different cultures in Africa. What's a culture?
A culture is like what you do or religion.
Yes, yes, you're correct.
A culture is like a way of doing things. It's similar to a tradition.
A tradition, right.
Like a way
ritual.
of life.
A ritual, right.
Like a way of life.
Like a way of life, exactly. So you have different cultures, and this is obviously just one of the cultures. We practice a culture. We have lots. They definitely ain't got no lots, but you know what I mean. But we're one in the spirit. Yes, Selassie, Jah Rastafari. All right, now this is a modern day map of Africa, and we have to begin in this way. And I would like the Honorable Prince Almasi to read a few pointers to us from a website that we have here, a specific article directly dealing with some facts as it relates to Africa, specifically modern day Africa. Yes, my lord, you'd have to read up as well.
It says here that there are 54 countries in Africa and 9 territories, with a total of more than 1.1 billion people living on the continent, which is 15% of the world's total population.
Now, if you got that good, so what the Honorable Prince is telling us from the article that we're reading here is that Africa, there are 54 countries. You see them here. There are 54 countries in modern day Africa, even down to Sudan and South Sudan, you know, and more than 1.1 billion people live in Africa. So what's a billion now? I think a billion is
16.
No, 16 digits. Okay, that may be so.
A thousand.
A billion is a 1,000 million.
Okay.
You understand? Oh, well, give down. So we have 1.1 billion people living in Africa. The vast majority of these people are of African descent, meaning they are melanated people. All of this we will speak about because melanin now is very important when it comes to our African history and tradition. Your melanin is something known as the pigmentation. These are just words, scientific words given to that life force. But melanin is the pigmentation that makes you appear dark or makes you black. You understand? And it also has to do with your hair as well. Because there are people that live in Africa that are not the original people. They are invaders from the Arab people for sure, that occupy a lot of the northern territory, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, as they call it today, and Morocco. Most of these areas here, Sudan, are occupied by mostly people of Arab descent. And the reality is that they are recent invaders. And these are some of the things that we will have to learn about Africa. We went through a few periods of harsh chastisement, servitude, kidnapping, and what people call slavery. Not just the Caribbean and the Americas slavery, but the Arabs as well played a severe part in the enslavement of many of Black people and robbing them of their territory and their land. And it's important even no matter what age you are. I've been teaching you about this from before you were speaking. You've been learning about your African self before you were walking. You already know who the slave master is even before you were growing your teeth. So it's important that you feed the young people on the truth. Let us hear some more about Africa. You go on something else there? Yeah, okay. This is some African facts. Huh? Listen to this.
The largest country.
Mm.
Algeria. This country is Algeria.
Mm.
This country is among the 10 largest countries in the world.
Okay, hold on before he says any more. So this is Algeria here, and this Algeria is considered to be the largest country in Africa today. So if anyone was to ask you, do you know which country is the largest country in Africa? It would be Algeria. Now listen to me good. When you say country, because Africa is labeled, pardon me, as a what? Continent. Africa is not seen as a country. Yes, in the ancient times, they saw the Atlantic Ocean as the African Ocean or the Ethiopian Sea. So that means there was a unity in the land. But because of invasion and many of the things that we will speak about in other classes, Africa has become politically divided. We were already set aside, you know, not divided. We had different tribes. Yes, we had different cultures. Yes, we had different languages, but we were one in the spirit. It's not so today, not at all. The land has been checkered board. So it's cut into different pieces. And the biggest country now is Algeria. And it's seen as what? One of the top 10 largest countries in the world. Okay, but the most populous country in Africa, however,
is Nigeria.
Nigeria, look at Nigeria right here. So that populous means, see, it says the most populous country. That means the country with the most people in Africa is Nigeria or Nigeria, just under Niger. One place, one place, but it has been cut into pieces by the Arabs and the Europeans. So here we have Nigeria now, which is the most populous. Tell us a little bit about that.
With more than 185 million people. But the country is only a third of the size of Algeria.
So you see that. So Nigeria is the most populous. So anyone asks you which African country has the most people, it would be Nigeria. It's not the largest, which is Algeria. You know, we could do a poem about that. Do you know that the largest country is Algeria, but the most populous one is Nigeria?
I can make a poem about that.
Have you been to Syria?
Have you ever been to Syria? Of course.
Well.
Okay, we're running out of words here. All right,
Yeah.
so we good. Yeah, no, well, Libya and we can Korea. Yeah, all right, we've gone all over the world. So Algeria again is the largest, but Nigeria is the most populous with 185 million people in Nigeria. Okay, so basically we have a good idea. This is our first class, This is the first class. This is African history class number 1. And as I'm saying here, this is how we chose to begin, by giving anyone who, you know, never had a comprehension as such then of exactly what Africa is about, you know, at least to get an idea where it is on the map, what it's all about, you know, our African people. You know, the Honorable Prince just gave us some good knowledge, modern day knowledge, as it relates to our African, not history, but as I said, modern day knowledge, what is taking place now. That is why we had to highlight the River Nile too. That is very key, because the River Nile, and we are going to speak about the River Nile more in other classes to come, because the River Nile itself really represents life. and civilization, you know, the River Nile. So the great kings and queens of Africa, what I would like you to do, young ones and big ones as well, is to take your time and go through, you know, the great kings and queens of Africa. Oh, pardon me there. Before we go that far, I would like the Honorable Princess to give us a little bit here as it relates to Emperor Haile Selassie first.
Of course, Emperor Haile Selassie first. Emperor Haile Selassie was the 225th Emperor of Ethiopia. He was born on the 23rd of July, 1892. His name at birth was Leech Tafare Makanen. He was crowned Negus Negas, King of Kings, on the 2nd of November, 1930.
All right, and that is some information there on Emperor Haile Selassie. And when we come again, what we will do, we will take more time and go into that. But basically, for now, our time has definitely been expired. As I said, this is the book, The Great Kings and Queens of Africa. You should have received a copy in your email, in your inbox. Please feel free to go through it in your own time. Actually, with this, you also have links that will take you to videos. For example, you have here King Akhenaten, and there's a link underneath. When you press the link, it carries you straight to a video directly dealing with King Akhenaten. So it's a well compact children's book, really. The Great Kings and Queens of Africa. So this is just one of the textbooks that will be coming your way as we continue our African history heritage classes. So do give thanks. Of course, as we always say here at the Priest Isaac's Institute of Holistic Knowledge, this is our affirmation. I am the best, and I deserve the best, and only the best is coming to me now. Holy Manuel,
Selassie Jah Rastafari.
Blessed.